amazing HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra, who I served with in Congress. He is a true leader, good friend of ours. Our incredible Attorney General, Letitia James, is here. Oh, she's here. Is she here? Well, she's here in spirit. There we go. And the Senate Majority Leader, and I love saying those words, Andrea Stewart Cousins is in our presence. And as I mentioned, the Speaker of the New York State Assembly, Carl Heastie. And the coolest Lieutenant Governor in America, my very own, Brian Benjamin. Great Mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, has joined us. Thank you, Mayor. And is Ruben Diaz Jr. in the house? Well, he should be. I'm just saying. He did an extraordinary job as a partner of ours for many years. I just want to give him a shout out as well. Let's give him a round of applause. You know, over the last 19 months, this city, more than any place on the planet, was so hard hit by this pandemic. And then you think about not just the city, but what happened in places like the Bronx. Because we don't need to tell anybody that Black and brown communities were the hardest hit in terms of the number of cases, the number of deaths, and our rate of vaccination is not what we want it to be. These are the communities that have suffered the most. And that's why we're so honored to welcome the Vice President of the United States of America here so she can have a conversation about what the Biden-Harris administration has done before and what they're going to do next. That's what this is all about. And I want to say, we know that after 19 months, people are still struggling. This just seems like it won't go away. We thought last summer we were declaring victory. We're going to be back to normal. We're going to get the kids back to school, everybody back to work. But that Delta variant just isn't going away yet. We're making progress, but there's still people whose jobs are not there. People are worried about whether or not they're going to lose their home. People still don't have child care, so they can go back to work. All of our lives have been turned upside down, and it just feels like we're not getting that sense of normal yet. Everybody just craves that, don't we? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build on what the Biden-Harris administration had already done. That American Rescue Plan that they did after we had to endure this pandemic with Donald Trump. Did you feel like we were getting attention and help then? No. The Biden-Harris administration came in 9 months ago and have transformed the delivery of dollars and services so we can have a lifeline. They gave us a lifeline when we needed it the most. Our businesses were drowning, our families were hurting, and they gave us what we needed at the time. But they want to do more, because as long as this virus is still out there, as long as this pandemic is still with us, we are still having a healthcare crisis. And as long as there's still a healthcare crisis, there's still an economic crisis. And if there's still an economic crisis, there's still a family crisis. That's where we are today. And we need them once again. And they have the package to deliver for us. They are ready to do this. They just need everybody in Washington to get with the plan, the Build Back Better plan. Do we want to have that happen? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We want that. We want that money right back here in the state of New York. And I'm ready to spend it. I'm very happy to spend it as your governor. Let's get that money here. It goes out to you, and we start moving on. Right, everybody? All right, let's make that happen. I am so proud to have the support of President Biden and Vice President Harris. They have both spoken to me many times. We have regular calls at the White House. They are so engaged. They want to get this money to you to rebuild the human infrastructure as well, to help people get child care, help people get more vaccinations, help all the communities that are hurting. Let's get more job training as well, because there's a lot of jobs that just may not come back. I will partner with them all day long, any day of the week, and I know you want that as well. So let's support them in their effort to make sure that we have what we need here so we can once and for all declare victory over this pandemic, and let's get back to the new normal, which is going to be better than the old normal. We can do that right here in the Bronx, can't we? We'll make that happen for our people. We will get that done with Biden, Harris. Let's support them. Thank you, everybody.
Please welcome Representative Bowman. What's up? Good afternoon. How y'all doing? So, it's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here. Thank you all for being here. So, I want to first acknowledge this facility, this YMCA. This facility was 30 years in the making. It took organizing and fighting and strategizing to get this facility open, which just opened a couple of months ago. And before I say anything else, I have to acknowledge the two community organizers and community members that helped this facility to be built. So, and I want them to stand, and I want us to give them a huge round of applause. So the first organizer is Ms. Shirley Ferran, please stand. And the second is Mr. Al DeCastro. Please stand. Come on now, y'all could do better than that. Give them a standing ovation. Round of applause. Yes, absolutely. And the transformative power of a community center is not lost on me personally. The 92nd Street Y probably saved my life. Asphalt green downtown probably saved my life. It gave me a safe place to go and just be a kid, playing basketball tournaments, football tournaments, learn how to swim, which didn't happen, but I tried. But it was these community centers that we can go after school and on the weekends that kept us out of everything else that was going on. I also want to acknowledge our phenomenal Assembly Speaker, Carl Hastie, who has represented this district for a very long time, and he was fighting right along with the organizers to help get this done. So please, thank you so much, sir. Yes, and I have to acknowledge our state Senate Majority Leader. Doesn't represent the Bronx, but represents the other part of my district, and has shown leadership for decades, particularly for Black women, Miss Andrea Stewart-Cousins. I want to also acknowledge the only other member of Congress who is here today. I finally got her to come into my district. I have been trying for months, and she is finally here, Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Why I had to bring the VP for you to come to my district, son? What's going on? No, come on now. Absolutely. And I want to acknowledge every elected official that's here. I know Governor Hochul did that as well, but I got to move on. They only gave me a few minutes. So we're here to talk about the Build Back Better agenda. And those words, some people initially said, oh, that's a terrible name. But I think it captures exactly what we are trying to do. Historically, our federal government has not done enough to invest in our historically marginalized and neglected communities. As a matter of fact, historically, the federal government has done the opposite. We have kept our Black and brown communities behind, we have kept them marginalized, and we allowed neglect to persist in communities just like this. And Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and I and many others often talk about the New Deal. And the New Deal was transformative for America. It helped to build the middle class. It helped us to recover from World War II and the Great Depression. But you know what else it did? It redlined our Black and brown communities. It kept out our domestic workers and our home care workers who are disproportionately women of color. That was the only way the deal was going to pass. And if you watch the news today, you see we are having some of those same conversations. But thankfully, the Congressional Progressive Caucus and many others are not having any of it this time around. Because with this bill, we are ensuring that we target historically marginalized communities. We are not going to leave women behind. We are not going to leave children behind. We are not going to leave our seniors behind. We are going to deal with the climate crisis, and we are not going to leave people of color behind. because we have done that for far too long. So this is where we are. But before we talk about where we are, I want to talk about where we've come from. Because of the work of many of you and many across this country organizing in places like Georgia and Arizona, Democrats were able to take back the Senate and take back the White House. Yes. And as a result of that, we were able to pass the American Rescue Plan, which is already transforming the lives of thousands of families and children in this district and millions across the country. We're talking about unprecedented investments in education, $130 billion, investments in rent relief to make sure people can stay in their homes. And this is the kicker. We lifted 50% of children out of poverty with the child tax credit that will go until December at the least. Now, only till December if we don't do what we need to do with the Build Back Better Act. Now, poverty is not just about how much money you make or don't have. It's how poverty impacts you emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. Poverty is connected to toxic stress and chronic trauma. And Senator Bailey and I have been speaking about this for many years, the impact of poverty, and is connected to stress and trauma. Because when a child is living in an environment where they are consistently stressed out or dealing with the trauma of poverty, they are less likely to thrive when they enter our school system. And they often enter our schools behind the 8 ball. And schools work miracles to catch them up, and I know because I worked in schools for 20 years. But look at what we're doing right now. We are in the process of investing in our children to provide almost universal child care, where no one in this country will pay more than 7% of their salary towards child care. That is incredible. That deserves a round of applause. We're also borrowing from Mayor de Blasio's plan of pre-K and 3K programs. So I want to shout out the mayor for that, implementing it and doing it in New York City. But as we talk about universal child care, universal 3K, now we are making sure every child in America is ready for kindergarten. And when that happens, as that happens, you are going to see increases in graduation rates, increases in college matriculation rates, decreases in poverty rates, decreases in the level of wealth inequality that we see. You're going to see better health outcomes. You're going to see decreases in terms of the amount we spend on putting people in jail. Let's not invest $500,000 on keeping people in jail. Let's invest that money on early childhood education. And that is what we are doing with the Build Back Better Act. We are also looking to make sure our seniors are taken care of by investing in home care, by decreasing the cost of prescription drugs, and by providing optical, dental, and hearing services to our seniors and people who are on Medicare. This is huge. This is huge. And then finally, we are beginning the process of dealing with the climate catastrophe that we are currently living in. Beginning the process, because what we're about to do is not enough to stopping and slowing down Hurricane Ida that just came through this district and came through this city so aggressively. And part of the way we're doing that is investing in a civilian climate corps that has been championed by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. So please give her a round of applause. So this is the federal government working to do what it's supposed to do. And I know, when you turn on the television, it looks like we're at civil war. We're not. There is some disagreement, but we're not throwing blows, just so you know. But this is how government is supposed to work. This is what negotiation looks like. And we're going to continue to try to go bigger and bigger and bigger for communities like this one. So it is my honor to be with you all today. Thank you so much. This is a celebration, and we should recognize it as such, but there's more work to be done after this event. It is also my honor to introduce, this is the undercard. Y'all know what the main event is. But the undercard is this gentleman who's our Secretary of Health and Human Services. And just so we know, I'm an educator. I've been an educator for 20 years. I will remain an educator for the rest of my life, even though I'm in Congress. But education and healthcare has to work together in order for us to accomplish the things we want to accomplish. So it is my honor to introduce the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Mr. Xavier Becerra.
Wow, that's a great welcome for a Dodger fan in just so close to the Yankee Stadium, right? Well, I can see you all didn't have your New York coffee this afternoon. I want to thank Congressman Bowman. I want to thank Governor Hochul for your strong leadership here in New York, especially as we fight this pandemic. Congressman Bowman has been dedicating himself to building up and launching youth for a long time. And of course, we know about Governor Hochul. She is a doer, and there is no one I can think of who wants to do more than your governor for the people of this great state. So it is, of course, an honor to be here with you. It is interesting that sometimes it takes a congressman to bring a vice president to the neighborhood, and you are fortunate that Congressman Bowman has done everything he can, along with a doer, your governor, to make sure that that happens. So I am pleased to be a part of this process today. So thank you, Governor Hochul. Thank you, Congressman Bowman. Let's give them a round of applause for everything they do. So I just want to say to each and every one of you that it is important that we come together, because I suspect many of us can think about the time it takes to build a place like this. And I suspect I could say congratulations to all of you for helping bring this YMCA to your community. But guess what? I know you didn't just bring this place to your community. You fought to get it here. And so congratulations to all of you who believe the Bronx should have just as good a facility as any other place in America to provide for its kids. You fought for this moment. Year after year, you raised your voices and you advocated for your community. And look what you've built. It's not just a beautiful structure. It's a symbol of hope, a statement of resilience, a sign of opportunity. About 60 years ago, a guy named John F. Kennedy stood before a YMCA just like this one. He reminded us that places like the YMCA are so much more than just brick and mortar. He said that they don't just offer better parks and playgrounds and pools. They help build better neighborhoods of their communities, better citizens of the world. And you know, he was right. I see it before my eyes. Better communities, better citizens. That's exactly what Build Back Better is all about. Not just building better roads and bridges, but better minds and better leaders. Not just building better facilities, but better, safer places that we can call home and community. At the Department of Health and Human Services, where I have the honor to serve as secretary, we're proud to be part of the Build Back Better team. We work closely with the National YMCA to help deliver programming around the country. We work with every state to help secure basic resources for our children who are most in need. We help protect children and adults from neglect, abuse, and exploitation. Back in June, we awarded $1 billion in American Rescue Plan funds to more than 1,600 Head Start programs across the country to support the return to in-classroom learning for our future presidents and vice presidents of the United States. And in the spring, we delivered $39 billion to help caregivers care for our littlest ones. That is the largest investment in child care in our history. But we know we need to do more. Childhood should be a time of hope and possibility, not worry and despair. Yet, for far too many families, they're struggling to put enough food on the table, gas in the tank. And for me, this is personal. Growing up, I was one of 4 children born to immigrant parents. They never had the door open for them to go to college. My mother was a clerical worker. My dad a laborer, picking crops, canning tomatoes, fixing railroad cars, paving roads. They did what it took to pay the bills and keep us moving forward. So I've lived it. And that's why President Biden and Vice President Harris expanded the child care tax credit, giving direct relief to millions of parents who work hard to open those doors of opportunity for their children. The Biden-Harris Build Back Better agenda also takes our nation's caregiving crisis into account. It brings America into the 21st century to help pay those workers when they must take leave. It expands access to quality, affordable, home or community-based care for our loved ones who can't or shouldn't go to those facilities. It strengthens critical programs like Medicare and Medicaid and cuts the cost of child care for millions. I like to tell folks as the Secretary of HHS that the Department of Health and Human Services is aptly named. You can't separate health from humanity. If we lead with our humanity, there's nothing we can't do for the American people. That's how we struck the New Deal and chartered a new frontier. It's how we built a great society and survived a Great Depression. In those moments of crisis, our leaders didn't skirt around the edges. They went all in. That's what President Joe Biden is doing. That's what Vice President Kamala Harris is doing. Speaking of the Vice President, I've known the Vice President for a number of years. Some leaders are fearless, some are wise, some are thoughtful. It is the rare few that are all of the above. Vice President Harris is one of those leaders. She puts her values into action, and she knows how to get things done. She's a true champion for American families and a trailblazer for so many of us, regardless of your income, your zip code, or your background. She speaks for us all. So thank you, Vice President Harris, for your leadership. And although it's 2 days after October 20th, we want to wish her a very happy birthday as well. So now I hope you will join me in giving a very warm, very happy birthday welcome to the 49th Vice President of the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris.
Backstage, the congressman and I were talking about how we grew up, and you know, I grew up in the community center. I was a member of the Y. I swam at the Y, and so it is so good to be here. And Secretary Xavier Becerra, I want to thank you for being a lifelong public servant and for serving our nation at the Department of Health and Human Services. And I just want to say it is great to be back in New York, Mayor. It's good to see you. And it's good to be in the Bronx. It's good to be in the Bronx. It really is. And with all of these esteemed New York electeds, Speaker Hasty, I see so many friends here, and you know, the elected leaders of New York are certainly elected leaders of this state, but national leaders. You really, the voice of the leaders of this city, of this state, really do carry a voice, not only for the people who live in this state, but for the people of our country. Governor Hochul, where is she? There you are. Hello, Governor. Thank you for welcoming me. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, thank you. And then, of course, the Speaker and Senate Leader Stewart Cousins, where is she? There you are. Thank you. It's good to see you all. And to Congressman Jamal Bowman, thank you for the work that you do that lift up the people of this district and the people of this state and country. He and I have had many conversations about untreated trauma in our children and how, when addressed, we can do the work of putting them on the path of achieving their God-given capacity. So, looking out at this crowd, I see America. Looking out at this group of folks, I see, in particular with our young leaders, and I see many of them, the children of America. I see the families of America. And I see the people who have continued to hold it all together through the roller coaster of this pandemic. It has been a lot, and people are tired. But when I look out across this room, and I see so many of our young leaders here, when I look out across this room and across our country, what I also see is determination. I see your resolve. I see you. President Joe Biden and I both see you. And we stand with you. And we are fighting with the leaders here for you each and every day. You know, when we arrived at the White House at the beginning of this year, the President and I knew that working families in our nation were struggling. We knew that during the pandemic, the families that had the least were being harmed the most. That there was not a family in America that did not feel the pinch of this pandemic. That working class families, middle class families who were struggling before were barely holding it together now. And so we set out to deal with these issues, to provide all families with some relief. And it worked. The congressman talked about it. In less than 100 days, thanks in large part to New York's congressional delegation, we passed our American Rescue Plan with $1,400 checks, plus housing assistance, plus child care assistance, plus a larger child tax credit, which is already helping to lift America's children out of poverty. The relief that was contained in the American Rescue Plan put us on a path toward a better future. Today, we have within our grasp an opportunity to finish what we started with the American Rescue Plan. This, right now, is a moment that will not last. It is a particular moment of incredible opportunity and a moment to transform our nation. And part of what your New York leaders and the President and I have been talking about in the halls of Washington, D.C., is let's recognize this moment for what it is. Let's recognize that the pandemic hurt so many people. So many people experienced such great loss of every proportion. But by the way, things weren't so great for a lot of people before the pandemic. But the pandemic highlighted a lot of what is wrong, what was wrong, the fractures and the fissures and the failures for all to see. A lot of those issues which folks in this room have been working on for a long time, but a greater number of people had an opportunity born out of crisis to see that there is work to be done, and this then is a moment to do it. And we can see also that in this moment of transformation, let's think about it. It's a moment where schools and small businesses are opening back up. It's a moment where jobs are being created and our economy is growing. And so in this moment, we have an opportunity to build an economy that works for working families. So let's make it work for working families. And right now, the President and I are working to that end with the United States Congress to pass our Build Back Better agenda. And I'm sure you all have heard about the Build Back Better agenda. In my briefing documents, it usually says BBB. But some have been asking, well, what exactly does that mean? Well, it's about being better on climate. It's about better health. It's about better jobs. And intentionally, it is about our families. This is our agenda. You are right, brother. I know you are. And how about if you and I talk about that? So let me finish.
Why aren't we working with the Chinese on their Belt and Road Initiative?
Okay, you know what? You and I will talk after I give my comments, and I'm happy to talk with you. But right now, let's talk about the agenda that will include speaking to all people and allowing everybody to be heard, because that's part of what we want in our democracy. Everybody gets their chance to talk, and everybody gets a chance to be heard. So this is our agenda. This is our agenda to cut taxes. The Build Back Better agenda includes our agenda to cut taxes. Because for too long, the burden has been misplaced in a way that it is working families, middle-class families, low-income families, while the rich are not paying their fair share. So this is a moment to cut taxes and lower costs for the working families of our nation. So in the Build Back Better agenda, we are fighting to cut health care costs for working families and for all people. We are fighting to cut energy costs as we combat climate change. And we are fighting to establish universal pre-K and to lower the cost of childcare so that parents can afford to care for their children and to participate in our workforce. How much did we see during this pandemic? How that burden was disproportionately placed on the women in our workforce. So much so that 2 million women left the workforce during the pandemic and are still outside of the workforce. What we saw during the pandemic, and it was highlighted, those individuals who are among what we call the sandwich generation, individuals, men and women, who are parenting their young children while taking care of their elderly parents. And let's be clear about the burden that they carry, born out of love and a sense of duty and responsibility. It is the responsibility of tending to the needs of their children, including what that might involve in terms of homework, in terms of taking care of their basic needs, and while taking care of elderly parents who have a different set of needs. These are the burdens that families are carrying, often without any help. The Build Back Better agenda is saying, let's see folks. Let's see what they're going through. Let us ask, are we really creating and reinforcing a society that is about allowing people to reach their potential? Do we have a society that rewards ambition? The ambition a parent has for their children? This is at its essence what makes, we believe, and it's therefore the spirit of our Build Back Better agenda, what we believe makes for a stronger and a more productive and a better community and country, and a better quality of life for all of the people of our nation. So we are fighting for all of these things. We are fighting to give seniors and people with disabilities more options so that they don't have to move out of their home to get the care they need. We are fighting to expand paid leave so that our nation no longer comes in last among wealthy nations in providing these essential benefits. You know, the president is about to go on a trip, a very important trip, with the G20. I've been meeting with leaders of nations that are our partners and allies, and they look at us, and they are asking, is America really fulfilling her potential and her promise? They are asking, can democracies work? Can you care about building a strong economy coexistent with caring about human rights, civil rights, and a perspective that is born out of a sense of humanity and what it requires in terms of holding people up and treating them with dignity? All of these things are at stake right now. All of these things are at stake. So when we do things like fight to extend the child tax credit, yes, it is about our most important asset and resource, which is the children, but it is also about the strength of our nation and our standing in the world. So let's talk for a minute about the child tax credit, because it has a huge impact on the families of our community and our country. The larger child tax credit that the president signed into law back in March is one of the largest ever single tax cuts for families with children. It is also the first time this tax cut has been distributed monthly. Now, this is something I've been working on for a long time, which is the component of the plan that is about monthly payments. Why, some asked, do you need to do that? And the point is really pretty simple. You got to pay your bills every month. So why don't we provide the tax cut every month if it is really designed to help people with their bills and the cost of living? So for 4 months now, the American families that have received this new approach have received a monthly tax cut of up to $300 per child. Parents and grandparents, who are often the primary caregiver for their grandchildren, have used those checks to manage the cost of raising children while continuing to work. Nearly all the families that receive the child tax credit are indeed working, and for other families, the child tax credit is helping them to cover the cost of child care so that they can get back to work. But unless Congress acts, these monthly checks will stop coming after December. You've heard that earlier today. 1 in 3 children would no longer be covered by the full tax credit. And it is of particular note, and something that we all care deeply about. That includes half of Black and Hispanic children in America. Needless to say, we cannot let that happen. We cannot let that happen, and we will not let that happen. And that is why, together with all of the congressional leaders who are here today, we are fighting to pass our Build Back Better agenda. And you've probably seen the news or heard the news about the details of the final bill. The Congressman talked a little bit about the sausage-making process that is. But I'll tell you one thing for sure. We will not allow anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year have their taxes go up. We will not allow that. That is non-negotiable. In fact, this plan cuts taxes for working families. This plan also makes corporations pay their fair share because, and we all know why that's important. It's just simply not right that a nurse or a teacher or a firefighter pays more in taxes than a hedge fund manager. It's just not right. It's just not right. So the bottom line is that this is about what we value as a nation, about who we value. And I want you all to know, the President and I value working families. The President and I both come from working families. The neighborhood I grew up in was a neighborhood of hardworking folks. People who took seriously the importance of their job, who took seriously the importance of caring for their families, who did all that they did with incredible pride. Nurses and teachers and construction workers. Folks who were a part of the community, gave to the community, and lived in a way that was about understanding the dignity of work. My mother worked around the clock as a breast cancer researcher. She would pack lunches early in the morning for me and my sister and see us out to go catch the bus to go to school. And when we came home at night, we would eat dinner together. And then after we went to bed, I would sometimes sneak and just check on her, and she'd be at the kitchen table paying the bills. She never complained. But I know sometimes she was barely holding it together. We have families around our nation who know it won't be easy, but we can't give up. We have families throughout our nation, in this very community included, who would do anything and everything to give their children the opportunities that they rightly deserved. Parents and families who see the capacity of the children, who see their dreams, who look in their eyes and see the twinkle, who nurture their ambitions. Let's support those families. Let's have a system and a society that rewards the hard work that takes. Let's value that in every way we know we have the capacity to do. That's what this is about. And we have a moment right now to actually get this done. The members of the United States Congress, right now in their hands, within reach, have an opportunity to lift up our families and our children, to see and acknowledge with humility what has not been working, and with excitement to do something about it. So I'm here today to ask people to see this moment for what it is and to step up. We can do this. It is the right thing to do. And to the young leaders here, and I see you, and I'm so proud of you, you never let anybody tell you something can't be done. I have a motto. I eat and drink no for breakfast. Don't hear it. If most of us in this room heard no, we would not be in this room right now. We know it can be done. So New York, change is possible. Change is possible if we make it happen. And so let's make this happen. Let's get to work. Let's pass our Build Back Better agenda. Let us build an economy that works for working families. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you.